I would love to stay in Toronto and help build off what they have right now. But you know what? Like right now, those talks aren't happening. There are more important things right now to focus on.
Hey everyone, I'm Jamie Campbell. Welcome once again to Blue Jays Central at home. And we anticipate a baseball season. Who knows if it's going to happen? We certainly hope so. And to discuss it, Mike Wilner and Ben Wagner are going to be here in mere moments. So too is my broadcast partner, Joe Siddall, from his home in Windsor, Ontario. And among the things we'll discuss, the Blue Jays bullpen. We may, if we see a season, see Ken Giles in a Blue Jays uniform for the last time. That's up for discussion. But before we talk about it, why don't we hear from the man? He was kind enough to join Hazel Mae from his home in Arizona.
It's great to see Ken Giles, and I know his beautiful wife Stella and his two little guys must love all this time they get to spend with you, Ken. But how strange is it for you to be home and not at work in the middle of May?
It's very strange. I mean, we'll be about 2 months into the season right now. But you know what? I mean, get to see my boys grow up, more time with my wife. I mean, I really can't complain when I get a lot of family time, which I desperately love to always to have.
One more. Atta boy!
And your second little guy, I think he's about 9 months old. You get to witness a lot of firsts. Tell us about that.
Yeah, he'll be 9 months next week. And I got to see a lot of his firsts while being quarantined down at home. I've been able to see him sit up for the first time, crawl. He's standing now. He's about to start walking. He said his first word. I mean, I got to see a lot of the first in person compared to my oldest, where I was on the road a lot when he was a baby. And he already did a lot of his first before even the off season was even coming about. So it's a very special feeling. I'm very grateful for those times.
Well, in what ways has having a former softball pitching star as your wife is helping you try and stay in shape in the middle of a quarantine?
I think she's relying on me for staying in shape and stuff like that. She doesn't get to hit the gym just like me. So we've been doing some outside workouts. She's been doing my workout routine every day. And she's there for my pitching. She watches and she takes video of me, and she gives me her insight every day. Telling me it looks better and better every day. So she's happy where I'm at right now, and I can't complain.
Well, I understand pitching coach Pete Walker has been in touch with the pitching staff. What specifically have you and Walker been talking about?
Just figure out a way to stay ready. Basically, I mean, there's no right or wrong answer of how to be ready. Everyone's different, and for me, I know my body well enough where I'm at a point where I'm not going to be throwing off full. I'm not going to hit the gas pedal for a bullpen right away right now until I hear a set date for the season. So get the body fresh, so I don't want to break down in a maybe shortened season. So I always want to be cautious of my workload, even as of right now. I just want to stay fresh, stay in tune with everything, my mechanics, stuff like that. So that's the biggest insight we're talking about.
When and if you guys get back to playing baseball again this year, we're going to see a lot of new faces, Ken, on the mound for the Blue Jays. What were your overall impressions in those few weeks in Dunedin and expectations for this revamped pitching staff?
I was very confident with our pitching staff. I mean, everyone was throwing fantastic. We got from Ryu, our newest addition, throwing like he normally does, which was awesome to see. Shoemaker making his comeback. He was throwing phenomenal out there. And Tanner was throwing great. And then Chase was making his adjustments throughout the league. And then you got Trent going out there for the fifth spot, just doing work out there. And then you got Yamaguchi, who's our newest addition as well, making his adjustments every day, adjusting to American baseball. But you know what? He's got great stuff, and he's right there with us. And the bullpen has a lot of question marks, but you know what? We had a lot of quality arms going out there and doing great jobs with the opportunity that they were given. But they were making a lot of hard decisions, which we really wanted to happen, because we want to also keep everyone, but we want them to be competitive to be able to be in the big league roster.
As you know, Ken, a few players, including Blake Snell, and we heard Bryce Harper, voicing their displeasure with what was a reported revenue plan. In your mind, what do you think it'll take to get you guys back to work?
Honestly, it's a group decision. Honestly, everyone has their own opinions, but at the end of the day, all the players know what we want to do, and we want to stick to that plan. If that's we don't know what that may be whenever that decision comes, and whenever we make that decision, I think it'll benefit everybody, because we're trying to benefit everyone's concerns and needs and their insight and what they think. We got hundreds and hundreds of different personalities and ideas, and we're all listening to each other. But as of right now, we're in a happy medium right now. Mm-hmm. I think we know what we want to do. We know what we want that'll take us. It's just going to take a little time, but I think I'm pretty confident something will be done.
For you, in your conversations with Stella, what as a couple are your biggest concerns about you going back to work?
I mean, it's the health. The health is always the main concern. It's hard when you have to be separated from your spouse and your kids for a certain amount of time, and especially when you're confined to a hotel room and to the stadium only. It's a lot of question marks. Like for me, I work better with my wife and my children with me during season, because they are my gateway away from the field. They keep my mental state in check. They just help me in every way possible to keep me in line to be happy and enjoy myself, and just everything like that, just to keep me busy off the ballpark and stuff like that.
That's the ball game. Giles strikes out Perez, retires the side in order to pick up his save, number 23 on the season.
Before I let you go, Ken, I want to ask you, you have personally had nothing but success in a Blue Jays uniform, and it's been no secret how much you love playing in Toronto and how much the Blue Jays fans love you back. But you know, at the end of 2020, you're going to be a free agent. How important is it for you and as a family to try and get an extension done? And have you guys even broached that topic with the front office?
I mean, I've voiced my opinion where I want to stay. I would love to stay in Toronto and help build off what they have right now. But you know what? Like right now, those talks aren't happening. There are more important things right now to focus on. But I mean, I voiced it out there that I'm interested in staying for a longer term. And but you know what? Like that stuff is out of my control. All I can say is what I can voice and what I really care about. And my wife and my kids love it in Toronto. I mean, they always tell me like they're always comfortable there. They have a good time. There's great people all over the place. And I mean, I can't argue with my family. If they're happy there, I gotta set place somewhere where they're gonna be happy as well. So all I can say is like hopefully I can be a Blue Jay a little bit longer. But if not, I mean, there's no hard feelings in it.
And I know Blue Jays fans would be thrilled to see you continue on in your career as a member of the Blue Jays. Great talking to you, Ken. Much love to Stella and the boys. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we look forward to seeing you back out there on the mound.
Thank you, guys. Same to you guys.
There's little doubt that Giles had one of the better seasons among closers in the American League, and you can tell by the numbers alone. He was a standout, a terrific ERA, an exceptional whip. His K/9 was tremendous. The number of saves would have been a whole lot higher if the team had scored a few more runs for him and had been giving him opportunities to win some games at the end. But sometimes saves are all dependent on how good the team is you're playing for. So whether or not he'll be a Blue Jay after 2020 is up for debate. So let's discuss it with Mike Wilner, Ben Wagner, and Joe Siddall. First to you, Mike. Given the direction of the Blue Jays and given that Giles will be fairly expensive, do you anticipate him re-signing a long-term deal with this team?
Well, we just saw in that discussion with Hazel that he wants to. He's happy here and his family's happy here. So, I mean, that's a plus. I just, you know, I'm a little wary of speculating because it's going to be such a weird off season. You know, if there's a season at all, it might just be one big, long, extended off season. And who knows how many people are going to say, well, give me like a 1-year pillow to rebuild value, let the game rebuild value, and then go out and make huge money. any deal I think that's signed this winter, with the possible exception of Mookie Betts, is going to be, as we look in retrospect, incredibly team friendly. So I don't know if it's in anybody's best interest to lock up long term, but I think the Blue Jays really like what they have. Giles, in a season and 2 months as a Blue Jay, has only blown one save and has absolutely been dominant. His whole career has been phenomenal, with the exception of 1 month in Houston that wound up getting him traded to Toronto. So it seems like the willingness is there from Giles's end. I know that the Blue Jays would love to have a reliable closer locked up long term, but you don't know how much this front office is willing to spend on a closer. I really think that it's gonna be wait and see for almost everybody this winter, and Giles will be one of those.
Ben, we have yet to see a major league game played, and it's nearing the end of May. So think back to spring training and tell us what you thought of the composition of the Blue Jays bullpen. There are a lot of new names down there.
There are a ton of new names, and some guys are already locked into the scenario like they're projected to be. We know Ken Giles wants to be the closer. Setup guys could be Rafael Dolis. They could be Anthony Bass. Maybe Shun Yamaguchi. If he doesn't make a starting role for the Blue Jays, how does he factor in? And there are a number of things where he could fall into. Do they go with a six-man rotation because innings will be so limited at the start of the year because guys won't be good and stretched out? Or does he translate better to a bullpen role? And for me, the difference maker will be the splitter for Yamaguchi. That has to be a difference maker for him. He's got a fringe fastball right now. He's getting adjusted to American life and Major League Baseball style pitching. All those things kind of move into his changing overall as a human, let alone a baseball player. So that's important. But then you get into that next tier of pitchers for me that are really exciting. How does Thomas Hatch now develop into his next phase as a prospect with the Blue Jays, because his stuff was outstanding in spring training games? Do you move Julian Merriweather out of a starting role because his stuff plays so well, regardless if he's a starter or a bullpen guy, and the Blue Jays have something there? There are a number of names that are really excited to really move into next year, to get excited about. But it also depends on how the Blue Jays want to maneuver this roster at the start. Do they want the younger guys playing either in backfields, or if minor league baseball ever gets going, do they actually house them behind the scenes and go with the more veteran guys like an A.J. Cole, like a Justin Miller? Does Mark Zubchinski get an opportunity to see what he's got? Has he reharnessed some of that life from a couple of years ago? So it'll be really interesting to see how the Blue Jays kind of project this roster over the first couple of weeks, and then how do the dominoes fall?
So, Joe, let's imagine that a season comes to fruition, and let's say it's July the 4th, and everybody gets 3 weeks of spring training. How do you think that short term is going to impact bullpens across the major leagues?
That's the key. It's going to impact arms across the league, but notably for the Blue Jays too, you've got a very veteran rotation, and that's a great thing. You've got guys that maybe can handle that adversity better than some younger guys, but these are unprecedented times. These guys have never had a full off season, come to spring training for a few weeks to ramp up, get shut down for a few months, and then have to ramp up again. So I think the depth that Mike and Ben were talking about is going to be challenged, and it is going to be around the league. We've heard so many names that the Blue Jays are now happy that a lot of these young pitchers are coming up into the fold, and I think they may need a lot of them. These starting pitchers, too, for the Blue Jays, good veteran major leaguers, but at the same time, aside from Ryu, not necessarily guys to go deep in the ball games, let alone this layoff. So that will be extremely challenging. It will be around the league, but I think it will be even more so for these Blue Jays relievers. We may see a lot of names from that taxi squad making their way up, especially in the early going.
We are seeing almost daily reports about the back and forth now between the owners and the players, and they have to come to an agreement if any baseball is to be played in July. Joe, I'm coming back to you on this one because there was a point in your career in the 90s where you were asked to be a replacement player. What do you think the players are going through right now, knowing that what they've been asked to do could put their long-term health at risk, and in many respects, will not allow them a chance to be paid based on what they've agreed to in terms of an annual salary.
Well, these are very different times. And one thing is for certain, today's players have not been through a work stoppage. Now, Tony Clark, their leader for the Players Association, was a teammate of mine in Detroit, and Tony was part of that back in the 94 strike and 95 when baseball was coming back. So he's very familiar with it. But I think when you look at some of the comments from Blake Snell that certainly made their way around the entire industry and throughout the media, but that's a player that, to me, is doing no good for his Players Association. It is a bit of a PR battle. But at the same time, if you put it in context, here's a young guy, he's making a lot of money, and he's streaming online in some game portal, talking to fans and answering questions. So I do think the context has to be considered there, but at the same time, he has to listen to the leadership. And if there's one thing that I learned back then coming up, was that you try to continue to be informed, you learn about the issues, you talk to other players, but you let your team reps and your Players Association leaders do the talking. And unfortunately, in these unprecedented times, it's 2020. Technology has come that far where they do have that platform, but I think they need to listen to their leadership a little bit more and let them handle it. Because remember, these things weren't even out in the public yet. This is stuff that's just been leaked to the media. The owners haven't even proposed this just yet formally.
Okay, so let's expand on this. Mike and Ben, I want you both to weigh in on this. First to you, Mike. One, do you believe that the owners and players will come to some form of an agreement? And if they don't, is this going to cause the kind of damage we saw with the public back in 1994?
I do think they'll come to an agreement. I don't think that they're going to let money get in the way of this. They understand what it looks like. And like Joe said, you know, it's 2020, so everyone's got this platform, and you know, as a society, we tend not to listen to experts anymore, so everyone thinks they can just weigh in on it. So we're going to hear from lots of players. It's going to be impossible to shut them up, but everybody knows what millionaires and billionaires bickering looks like, especially going into a depression when there's no disposable income anymore and people have very little to spend on sports. So I don't think they're going to let economics get in the way. Safety might, who knows? Especially if there's a big second wave, and we'll see what happens over the course of the next few weeks in Georgia and Florida and other places. But I really do think they understand the significance of not getting back on the field, especially with the NHL and the NBA starting up and the NFL again. It would be a huge black eye for baseball to not do everything they can to safely get back on the field.
Absolutely, Mike. They're going to lose the PR battle if this is the holdup. If all the other sports are back in some sort of competition, whether it's leading into playoffs or starting or continuing a regular season, the Blue Jays want to be part of Major League Baseball's plan. And, of course, the players want to be part of it, everyone that we're hearing from. And hearing Ken Giles talk earlier with Hazel Mae, it sounds like the players have an idea where they want to get. Now, the owners are proposing their plan this week, and it'll be very interesting to find out how far apart they are when it all comes down to it. I think it'll go probably into the 11th hour, but eventually, once you come up with the timeline of reporting to spring training camp, whether it's the major league city right now or in the Blue Jays case, going back to Dunedin, Florida, I think players will be ready on those days to report and then start the three-week ramp up.
Well, there's little doubt that people would like to see live baseball. They just want to see it played under the safest possible conditions. And as always, gentlemen, we appreciate your input. Mike Wilner, Ben Wagner, and Joe Siddall signing off as we appreciate your viewership of Blue Jay Central at Home.